I am calling to order the Planning Commission meeting of August 24th. And as everybody still knows, this is a remote meeting on Zoom. If you're having any trouble, you can email. There's a telephone number you can call in on, and hopefully anybody who wants to be in the audience can get in. So I would ask for the roll call.
Okay, Kristen, why don't you go ahead?
All right. Starting from my left top, Chair Wagstaff,
I am here.
Natasha Chalmers,
Yeah, present.
Vice Chair Kunstler,
Present.
and Commissioner Swisher.
I'm present.
And for the record, Laura Tauber will not be present tonight.
Thank you, Kristen. Is there anybody in the audience that would like, or commissioners that would like to speak on matters not on the agenda?
I believe we may have someone here tonight.
If anyone would like to speak, please raise your hand.
Kevin Carroll, I know you're there. If you'd like to speak, you need to raise your hand so we can allow you to speak. Where'd you go? There we go.
There he is.
Okay. Okay, I'm allowing you to talk. You need to, there we go.
No, I think thank you for recognizing me. And no, I think my letter to the commissioner says all that I have to say at this time.
Thank you for sending that too. Remain in the audience if you want to say something a little later.
And I would like to, for the commission to affirm, I did send the prior late mail to the commission after directly after our meeting in July 27th. So, but we're getting that in today. It's on the agenda, so it's in the record.
Okay, let's see. Do we have the planning director's report?
Okay, thank you, Chair Wagstaff and members of the commission. A couple items to report. I did send you some information on the Marin Municipal Water District has recently adopted two ordinances. They had adopted an emergency ordinance number 553 several weeks back, and that's the ordinance that began to restrict times for watering landscaping. And the district has been having discussions with the cities and the planning directors to emphasize that because of that watering, that can present a challenge to developments that are establishing new landscaping, whether it's new development or rehabilitation of landscaping is what we might call if you're remodeling a property, doing site work and replanting. And the district wanted to emphasize that because of those restrictions, it can be difficult to establish new landscaping, particularly during warmer summer climate. And they do recommend that any people who are developing or wishing to install landscaping either defer that to establishing in the winter months and minimizing the water use, making sure they're meeting the water restriction, and or looking at other options such as trucking in or bringing in recycled water to help supplement the needed irrigation. And then the other ordinance, now this is as opposed to, they have not instituted a moratorium on housing development at this time. That is certainly something that has potential, but it's not what they're seeking to do right now. But as another measure, they are requiring that no new landscaping, no new irrigated landscaping be installed for projects involving new service. And typically that's new construction. However, new service can occur if you have undersized service for an existing house. And as a result of remodeling or adding improvements, you may need to put in sprinklers or do other things that require an increased service. And that's a situation that can restrict any new landscaping that's fed by irrigation. So we're working with them on this and working with MMWD and looking for how projects which are in the pipeline or approved as of now, as they come for permits, how we may manage those projects, because certainly new landscaping is also a measure to assure long-term erosion control on hillside sites. So in the meantime, if you see development occurring, we may need to see a lot of jute netting and mulching to provide erosion control while landscaping is deferred to another point where the emergency moratorium is lifted or alternative water sources are identified for that kind of work. And again, we're kind of working through the details on this. But another aspect of this, because we certainly have had a few phone calls and queries on the issue, is the MMWD has not issued a moratorium on pools. The city does not have a moratorium on pools at this time. That is something the city would likely explore in concert with the water district. If that is a policy that the water district would seek, I think then all the other agencies in Marin may have that discussion and certainly consider that direction. But MMWD is the water agency, so we would be looking for their lead on that topic. So, do you have any questions on this at this time? I could certainly. I think as we work through it, we could certainly bring it back with a little more information on how we're, dealing with specific scenarios. We're still sort of working through how to recognize water service scenarios in advance and what those implications are for whether a landscape project as part of development is considered a new service or a rehabilitation. So those are kind of ongoing discussions. Any questions?
Neil, I have a quick question. Do you know how that it affects ADUs?
I think it'll affect ADUs in the same way. Again, the district has been emphasizing through the question, recognizing housing is a high priority for Marin County and the agencies. So instead of necessarily doing a moratorium on housing there or new development or redevelopment in ADUs, they're looking at other ways to cut back on water consumption. And so from the development standpoint, they're looking for, particularly for new development, to think creatively, come up, or else otherwise defer that landscaping and its demand for water. Because it is in many cases, landscaping is a significant element of the water demand for new development.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Neil? Seeing no questions, I will move.
I'll mention one other thing under the director's report. Sorry to interrupt, just to let you know, we are anticipating next week's city council meeting, we'll have a similar presentation on the housing element at that time, and potentially be considering contract authorization for city manager to go into contract with consultants to assist in bringing forward the housing element and conducting that process. And we're looking for a consultant that can really do some very hands-on management of the housing element because of our limited staffing and the reality that a point during this process. We're going to be transitioning to new director position. So that'll be coming, should be coming to the city council next week. We're kind of in the throes of preparing for that. So I'll let you know if there's any delay in that, but I anticipate that coming for discussion at their next meeting on Wednesday.
Okay, thank you. We, as it turns out, we have a consent item, and I think that unless there's a commissioner and or somebody from the audience who would like to remove the item, we would normally just go ahead and take a motion to pass it. There is a letter, as you can see, that is up that is an objection. And I don't know if that person is in the audience or not. But
I don't see
And-
them.
And Chair Wagstaff, I would just recommend that because you have a letter on the topic, I would recommend taking it off of consent and just briefly hearing the item. You don't need to necessarily get a staff report, but just discuss the content of the letter and whether that has any interest in the other members changing the recommendation.
I think that's a good idea. So let's remove that from the consent calendar. And I would ask Kristen if you have anything that you, as the person who wrote the staff report, that you would like to add before we talk about this.
Oh, I would like to make
Yeah,
sure.
I think
we-
Daniel's about to point something out. To take it off the consent, you should just do a quick vote of the
Oh,
commission to do so.
dang, I thought I could do it myself.
So we should get a motion.
Can I have a motion to remove item DRFAR 212551 Francis from the consent calendar?
So moved.
I
Is
can
there a second?
second. Yeah,
All in favor?
aye.
For the
Um,
record, that's all in favor except for Laura Talbot being absent.
Yeah, and Neil, are we gonna have individual nay or yay? What, didn't we talk about that?
Yes, I think actually because of the nature of the screen, the city clerk has recommended that votes, particularly votes for projects, votes dealing with actions, probably best to, unless it's a unanimous vote, and we can verify that, probably best to do individual votes.
So I should call out their names then and they'll
Yes.
vote. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Before we proceed, I want to make sure that the commissioners all are aware of the late mail that came in regarding this project. Property owner provided us a collection of letters. I'm sorry, wrong property. The architect provided us a couple letters, one from 10 Briar Road and another from 67 Murray, both in support. And then, of course, you have this one letter that is objecting to the proposal.
So do we,
Did everybody receive those letters? They follow.
did
Those
everybody
just
get
came in
those?
tonight. Those just came in this evening, right?
Right. They
Yeah.
came in today and
Okay.
I mailed them to you. So,
Yeah, you know what? I may have missed this one.
yeah. But they're both in support. Okay.
So do you want to call for a roll call on the,
Does the planning commission want to entertain any public comment before taking action, or?
if there is somebody in the public that wants to speak, yes, we should do that.
If there is somebody in the public who'd like to speak, you need to raise your hand. I'm not seeing any hands raised.
Okay, then I will pull it back to our vote of the commission to remove the item from the consent calendar.
Commissioner Kunstler,
We're voting.
Oh, we already did vote.
No, I thought we went ahead and removed it.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. I didn't know if we needed to do it one by one. It was unanimous in any case.
Yes, we'll give it that. So I think you can go ahead and, discuss discuss it, unless you want a more of a staff report on it.
No, I think we can discuss it. Daniel, why don't you start?
We cannot hear you, Dan.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Sorry about that. I'll just go closer to the mic, turn it up a little bit. Yeah, I just want to, very, very briefly, I think that the points that were raised in objection to the project were, thoroughly and adequately addressed in the staff report. Both the issue with the FAR and the setback, I believe they were addressed before the item was placed on the consent calendar. So I'm going to opine that I can make the findings for approval of this application.
Natasha?
Yes, actually, I agree with those comments in that I think the staff report did address the various, I guess, the reasons behind the agreeing to the permit. So, and I actually think that the front porch design is a very tasteful, attractive design. So I can also make the findings on this.
Thank you. And Jeffrey Swisher.
Hello. I agree with Natasha and Daniel. It's a nice and attractive addition. I don't see any problems with it, and I think the staff did a great report. So I would vote in favor of it as well.
And I also feel the same. I actually think it will add to the neighborhood as well as the house itself. So I can support the application. Could we have a motion?
I'll move to approve design review floor area ratio exception and variance number 21-25 for 51 Francis Avenue.
Seconded.
And,
Who's seconding?
Swish.
Swisher and Commissioner Chalmers, would you like to vote on this?
Yes. I
Okay,
vote.
and Wagstaff votes yes also. So it passes,
A unanimous vote.
yes.
I think procedurally, I'll just call your names if that works for you.
That works.
Okay.
And on the next item, which is, it's a public hearing item and it's 2103 30 Diane Lane, I will need to recuse myself. So Commissioner Kunstler will take over for me.
Thank you, Chair Wagstaff. So under consideration is design review floor area ratio exception and variance numbered 21-03 for 30 Diane Lane. And might we start with the staff report, please?
Thank you. This property is proposing, or the applicants are proposing to demo the existing single-family home and construct a new two-story dwelling with a single-car garage. As proposed, this requires design review, an FAR exception to build a 2,260 square foot house with a 0.5 FAR on the 4,566 square foot lot. It also requires a variance to on-site parking because the code requires four spaces for a new home, and they are proposing 3, 1 in the garage and 2 in the driveway. This application was initially scheduled before you May 25th. At that time, they had requested an additional 2 variances, one from the front yard setback and one from the lot coverage limitation. The staff report spelled out a variety of reasons why this could not be supported and recommended denial. The applicants then requested during the hearing that the commission, instead of hearing the item, continue it to a date uncertain and give them time to revise the design and see if they could address sufficiently the issues raised in the report. And the commission agreed. the revised design. It has eliminated the lot coverage and the setback variance and reconfigured the home now to have a larger second story. Generally, staff finds the architectural design is attractive and appropriate for the neighborhood. It's consistent and compatible with much of the development up and down the roadway in terms of its finishes and overall bulk and massing. The FAR is consistent also with the pattern of development and the recent approvals of FAR exceptions, particularly for this neighborhood. And as well as the variance to the parking, which it's quite common in this neighborhood for us to support a variance for 3 cars due to the smaller lot sizes and narrow configuration of most of these properties. And this seems to be sufficient for this typical 2-story single-family home. So we have provided you with findings and conditions of approval for your consideration, and we recommended approval of this application as proposed.
Thank you, Kristen. At this point, I would like to invite the applicant or the applicant's representative to make any presentation they so desire.
Richard, would you like to speak on this? Or Ed? If you would, you need to raise your hand. Oh, here we go. Okay, Ed, you've been allowed to talk. You need to unmute. There you go.
Okay. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, great. Thank you. Good evening, Commissioner, Councilor, Planning Commission members, city staff.
Oh, I've lost him.
Oh, you're back on mute, Ed.
No, that was my fault. I promoted him to a panelist so you could see him. Where'd he go? I've lost him. Uh-oh.
But his name is still.
Hey, Kristen, he's in, if you look on the panelist, if you switch to panelist there, he is there.
I didn't see him.
I
Okay.
see him there. He's
Yes,
Okay.
muted.
He needs to unmute. And then he should be.
And I think he can turn his video on.
You can turn your video on now, Ed, as well, if you'd like to be seen.
Well, I don't, but I will. All right, there I am. Can you see me?
Yes.
And you can hear me. All right,
Yes.
success. Good evening, Planning Commission members and staff. My name is Ed Blankenship. I am an architect with Pacific Design Group, and tonight my fellow architect Richard Burling and I are presenting 30 Diane Lane for you. This is our second review for this project. Our first concept was based on trying to salvage and save some of the existing foundation system in the back of the home, which forced the house to be situated on the property in an improper manner. And it was quickly brought to us that we were asking for too many variances for this particular lot. And so we rethought it, and I think we have a much better concept that we want to present to you tonight. The property is an interesting trapezoidal form. It has quite a wide street frontage, and it pinches back to the rear. Historically, we are going to use the same automobile circulation on the site. Excuse me for just a second. And as you can see, we are using the 2-car parking area to the far right, where we have the most amount of room to the driveway, and the first lower floor garage is to the front. The setback on this area is 15 feet because of the nature of the property, and we've tried to push it back a little bit further. Our original plan was to have the salvaging of about 1/3 of the rear foundation system that had been upgraded, but it was too close to the front of the street, and it also forced some setback issues to our neighbors to the north. So by removing the entire house and allowing us to replace and relocate it, I think we've succeeded in being able to accommodate our neighbors, not only on the front and the back, but also to the street. What's interesting about the piece of property is it's also almost at the end of Liberty Street and Diane Lane. So there's a pretty large intersection out in front, which is one of the reasons that we've taken the living space, the living room, kitchen, and dining room, and located it to the rear of the house to try to give the family a little bit more freedom from the street itself. Vanessa and Peter Costa have lived here for a long time in this house. They have 3 children between the ages of 5 and 7 that they want to raise here. They love this piece of property, and our goal is to create a family home for them that can accommodate all of their needs. So as you can see from our design, we've tried to create a nice front porch. Kristen, can we go back to the main level real quick, and I'll run through the floor plan as quickly as possible. We've created a nice entry porch and kind of a community sitting area to the left of the entry porch. The garage itself, because of the nature of our floodplain issues and our flood level, which we need to be at 11 feet, and I'll come back to that in a minute. We have quite a distance to cover from 8 feet to 11 feet, 3 vertical feet pretty quickly. So to try to do it in a very attractive manner and yet still functional is a real crucial issue. So from the garage, you can see there's a back access into the house and a entry level that's trying to pull people back in a generous but not overly stated passageway that gets you to the rear of the home. To the left is a small bedroom. All the bedrooms are 10 by 10. They're pretty tight with the closet out. There is also to the left a powder room that also acts as a full functioning showered bathroom. And basically that is the main level without the rear space of the living room, dining room, and kitchen. We've also, because it's facing due east, provided a nice covered small deck on the back that allows a little bit more extension to the family space, but also blocks some of the direct eastern light in the morning that comes into this area. So we think that would be a very helpful addition. And then there are steps that we hope graciously brings everybody back down from 11 feet to 8 feet. One of the nice things about this plan, we think, is the fact that our stairs, which in the previous plan was on the right side, has been shifted to the left side to go upstairs. This allows the living room to have that additional width or feeling of width from the staircase railings as they go up into the upper level. So it won't feel as small and as tight as it might actually be. The upper level, thank you, has 2 bedrooms and a master, the primary bedroom to the front. The 2 bedrooms in the back are both identical with a small bathroom in between them. In the expanded hallway area, there is a laundry space. And then in the front space, we have a master bedroom, or I'm gonna learn, primary bedroom with the wardrobe to the left and the bathroom to the right. I think it's real important to notice the window locations on the upper level to the north and south. They've been extremely limited. There's a small window in the master, in the primary bathroom, and there's 2 high windows in the staircase. So we're really trying to be very selective with our window placements, going only west and east. The only volume space that's not hipped is in the master bedroom, which has a nice gable because it has a direct view of Mount Tam. I think it would be a really nice treat for the primary bedroom to have that space. In the elevations themselves, it is a cement fiberboard. You can see we're going with the darker colors, the darker roof, and just white trim on all sides as we work our way around it with some exposed wood beams. The garage would be white to match the windows, but everything else is a darker color. There is a small porch concrete forms in the front, and in the rear, we see that the covered decking works to blend the back of the house down. By hipping everything, we think that it's containing the overall height on that issue. If we could go to the north elevation real quickly, I want to bring something up that our clients, the Costas, have discussed with both of their neighbors on both sides. But as you see the 2 windows on either side of the chimney, there is a concern about those windows being too deep and maybe having too much of a privacy issue with our neighbor to the north. And what we want to propose is we want to cut those windows in half and raise the bottom sills up. So those two windows would actually be 2.6 by 2.6 with the bottom of the windowsill at 5.6. So I think that that would eliminate any kind of direct viewing to the neighborhood or to the neighbor to the north, but still allow light to the inside. It also, I think, will help with the interior finish on that wall. Maybe there's wainscoting that kind of ties into the staircase. So wanted to bring that to your attention that we're proposing to lift those two windows to just rectangular squares at 2.6. The rest of the house, I think, fits really well with proper setbacks on all sides. Again, we're asking for a design review for the parking variance, and of course the square footage, which we're trying to make work for a family of 5 with 3 growing children. And if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them or take any spot further.
Thank you very much, Ed. Do any of the commissioners have a question for Mr. Blankenship? Seeing none, I just have one
Yes.
quick one, Ed.
Yes, sir.
And that has to do with the window on the front left of the house. So it appears to be, if you go to the elevations, yeah. So the front left of the house. So it appears that that you were trying to create some symmetry in the windows on the upper story, on the upper level.
Yes, sir.
However, I'm wondering why you, or maybe you did consider a larger window near the stairwell, since that part of the house actually just faces that Liberty Street intersection. There's no vis-a-vis. And you could have had a larger window to allow more light to the house. I was just curious as to why you selected a small window for that particular space.
One of the things about the neighborhood that we were concerned about is the visual, because these homes are so close together, and any kind of circulation staircase or any place where people are going up and down, we didn't want to have any kind of a perceived privacy loss to any of the neighbors. And this started a little bit with the staircase when it was on the opposite side to our neighbor on the south side, because we wanted to be sensitive to her needs for privacy in her backyard. And when we translated it around to the front, we thought it was maybe a well-balanced look. I think that it could benefit from having a deeper window there, and maybe even on the opposite side too, but then it's a whole architectural kind of a feel to that staircase as you're going around with the same size windows on that whole landing area. So that has been discussed a couple times. I want to say something else that I think is really kind of interesting, because we actually did the home to the north a long time ago. The floodplain was at a different level, which is kind of interesting. And we are now almost 1.5 feet higher on this one than we were on the one on the left, which means some of our sight lines may be more perceived from a higher vantage point. It's not due to anybody's fault. It's just the raising of the floodplain elevation that we have to deal with. I think it's interesting, in my lifetime, I'm doing a house side by side and experiencing almost 1.5 feet change in, well, climate change, I guess. So if the window was deeper, it would benefit from it, but we were trying to be sensitive really to our neighbors to the north and south about any kind of perceived look.
Okay, thank you very much. Does anyone else have any questions? Seeing none, now this is a public hearing, so if there's anyone from the public who wishes to comment on this application, now would be a good time to raise your hand. And Kristen will let us know if any hands are raised. You're muted, Kristen. Kristen, you were muted, so I don't know if they.
There are no hands raised.
Okay, thank you very much. So with that, I am going to bring it back to the to my fellow commissioners for their evaluations. And Jeff, I'm going to start with you.
I lived actually very close to this on William Avenue. And I think this house is very similar to many of the really attractive remodels that have taken place in Heather Gardens since then. It's in character with the neighborhood. It's a nice design, it's clean. I agree with Daniel in that if possible, I mean, if I were the homeowners, I would like to see a bigger window in that area, but that's not, our concern. But from an aesthetic standpoint, I think it would look nicer. I like the porches. I like how you used the fact that you had to raise the house, and the floor plan I think is very nice for a young family. So I'm in favor, and I would make findings for this project.
Thanks, Jeff. Natasha.
Yeah, thanks, Daniel. So my comments, I think on design review, I think it's an attractive modern craftsman design. I understand the need to completely reconstruct this house and to build up. I did struggle a little bit with the FAR exception. It's high, but it's not the biggest. And I understand that they're trying to put a family home on this small lot. So, and I think the design will not to look overbuilt. And then on the parking variance, I'm in agreement with the 3 spaces. This a lot is kind of too small, I think, for the required 4 spaces. So much like Jeff, I can make the findings as well. I don't know if we need to mention the changes to the windows that were presented by the architect in the presentation. But if we need to reference that, we can reference that as well.
Okay. All right.
There is a condition in the conditions of approval that allows staff to authorize minor modifications. So if they choose to do that, we can authorize it in that manner.
Okay, thanks, Kristen.
Thank you, Natasha. So, I'll chime in very briefly here. I really don't have a problem. I think the house is really compliant with the spirit of the various regulations governing projects in this neighborhood. It's always a delicate operation for the architect to build a 2-story home in a neighborhood that historically has been dominated by single-story homes, and that means that a lot of effort has to be put into not having structures that are looming. And I think this home successfully solves that issue, addresses that issue, and does solve it. So I'm really, aside from that, I'm really just in complete agreement with what Natasha and Jeffrey had to say. So I can also make the findings for design review for the floor area ratio. Yes, I do recognize that numerically is high, but I don't believe the house actually overbuilds the lot. It remains a home of reasonably modest dimension, and with that in mind, I can also make the finding for the parking variance. So with that, could I get a motion on this application? It's going to have to be either Natasha or Jeff. Sorry.
Sure, I can do it if I can get the wording right. So I'll make a motion for design review, floor area ratio exception, and variance number 2103. That's it, right?
That's pretty much it.
That's it.
Can I get a second from somebody?
Wait, I second it. I'll let the lawyer do the proposing. I'll second things. That's great.
All in favor?
I'm going to call your name. Commissioner Chalmers,
Yes, in favor.
Commissioner Swisher,
Yes.
Vice Chair Kunstler.
Yes.
Okay, and let the record show that was 3 with one recusal by Chair Wagstaff.
Yes. And I should remind everybody that there is a provision that states that there's a 10-day appeal period if anyone objects to the ruling by the commission. And with that, I'm going to gladly hand this back to Chair Wagstaff.
Before we begin, I just want to make sure we acknowledge the receipt of late mail for this project. We received 3 or 4 letters from the property owner from 6179 Ardmore, 65 Ardmore, and 40 Marina Vista, all in support. We received one email from an individual named Aaron, no address, no last name, objecting to the pool in a drought condition, and a letter from 48 Ardmore objecting to the pool in a drought condition.
Thank you, Kristen. Lorraine, if we could have the staff report on this project.
And before we start, Brock, I have to recuse myself from this as I'm a neighbor.
Oh, that's right. Okay. We're down to 3 again.
Lorraine, you just need to unmute yourself, I think.
Hey, Kristen, while Lorraine's talking, would you mind forwarding the 2 letters of objection?
I'll see what I
Reason
can
I
do. I'm sharing my screen, so you might.
Oh, might not be able to. I've seen all the letters in support, but I did not see the ones.
Why don't we go back to them? I'll let you take a look.
This is Ardmore.
There we go. Here's the email.
Oh, I see. One's an attachment letter, and one's in an email. Is that how
Yes.
that? It's all in one email. Okay, I found it. Sorry
Okay.
about that. Okay, I found it.
Here's the other letter. This is from 44 Ardmore. Specifically very concerned about the water issues. Okay.
Should I begin?
Yes,
Lorraine,
please.
do you want to be on camera? I can.
You can, sure, if you want.
Okay.
Good evening, Chair Wagstaff and members of the commission. So the request here is for the removal of existing retaining walls, deck, and stairs that are centrally located on the parcel, and construction of a new swimming pool with surrounding deck and a new 2-foot 8-inch retaining wall and landscape improvements on the existing 16,952 square foot lot. The permits that are being requested are design review and a slope use permit. This particular property has an average grade of 37%. The lot is a through lot with frontage on Ardmore Road and Marina Vista Avenue. The north side of the property abuts Helen Lane, which is a 10-foot wide unimproved pedestrian right-of-way. The homes on either side of the subject property are located between 35 and 45 feet from the shared lot lines. The site is thickly vegetated with hedges on the perimeter and numerous oak and bay trees throughout. So as indicated, we have a new swimming pool. It will include a spa. There will be a wood deck adjacent to the swimming pool. There will be lattice screening below the deck framing to screen the pool and spa equipment. The retaining wall would be located between the guest house deck and the swimming pool. And there would be a new decomposed granite and railroad tie steps and pathway on the east side of the site. There will be some new plantings, including native grasses in the rear yard between the existing guest house deck and the swimming pool, as well as 6 new olive trees. The proposed grading includes 123 cubic yards of cut to accommodate the new swimming pool and retaining wall, and there will be all soils will be off-hauled off the site. So in terms of design review, staff does find that this design presents a reasonable change to the rear yard. Due to the low height and central placement of the swimming pool and deck in the yard between the 2 residential structures, the proposed site improvements are not anticipated to present significant impacts to privacy, access to light, air, or views by the adjacent properties. There are other swimming pools in the neighborhood and surrounding area. So this would be compatible with development in the vicinity of the site. The design and placement and setbacks from the lot lines helps to minimize the appearance of site modifications. Given the scale and placement of the swimming pool and deck, the heavily vegetated side and rear yard, the swimming pool and deck will be minimally visible from the immediate adjacent properties. Lastly, it's not anticipated to impact the surrounding neighbors and will ensure that the home will continue to be compatible with and complement the architectural and aesthetic character of this neighborhood. In terms of the slope use permit, the proposed swimming pool and new retaining walls require a slope use permit because plans include grading of 123 cubic yards of earth on a parcel with an average slope of 37%. There is no map ridge line, which would be impacted by the project. The proposed site grading consists of 99 cubic yards of cut for the swimming pool and 24 cubic yards for the retaining wall. As mentioned before, all the soils would be off-hauled. This amount of grading is not considered significant, and it would just be a modification of the existing site condition and topography, which is found to be consistent with the intent and purpose of the slope and hillside regulations. City engineer has reviewed the applicant's plan, geotechnical reports, and grading and drainage plan. They find that the preliminary design is feasible and can be accomplished in compliance with applicable conditions of approval that would be imposed at grading building permit stage if the project is approved. As Kristen mentioned, we did receive, I think it's a total of 6 public comments, but they were received after preparation of the staff report and they were forwarded to the commission. 2 of those are in opposition, while the others offer support for the project. With that in mind, staff recommends the project is consistent with the required findings for approval, design review, and slope use permit, with the conditions of project approval attached to the report. I'd be happy to answer any questions of the commission.
Lorraine, you're gonna have to turn your camera on. That's not from my side.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Does anybody have any questions for Lorraine?
I've got this one quick question, Lorraine.
Sure.
The letter from Barbara Saltzman, not the water use issue, but the other issue about I think there's a mention of artificial soils that she appeared to be concerned about in her letter. However, I see on page 6 of the engineering report, of the geotechnical report, that there is definitely a recommendation, which I believe is in the conditions of approval, that that fill will be removed. Are we talking about the same thing, or am I considering apples and oranges?
I think you're talking about the same thing, and it is part of the condition of approval. I could go tell you the specific condition number if you need that.
No. My reference was page 6 of the of that engineering report. I did see it, so that's fine. Thank you.
Okay.
Does anybody else have any questions? Seeing none, I would ask if the owner or his representative would like to make a presentation.
Okay, Eric Witt, you are allowed to talk. You just need to unmute your computer.
Hi there. Am I supposed to turn on my camera?
If you'd like to be seen, I can change you to a panelist.
Sure. It's always nice to see people. It's a little foreign doing all of this, even if we've spent most of 18 months on. I've been promoted to panelist. Very exciting.
Yeah. Where are you? There we go. There we go. Sorry. Just unmute yourself. Okay, there you go.
Involved. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening. Thanks for making time for us to review this project. We've been excited to do this for some time, and tonight's hearing represents the culmination of a lot of work. So I wanted to start by thanking Lorraine, Kristen, Alvin, Marco, and the many people who've contributed. Forgive me if I get the titles or roles wrong. I'm not tracking all of the formality, but the volume of documentation, the thought given to a lot of the questions that you guys were just talking about in terms of grading and all the like. It's impressive in its rigor, at least to the layman. Look, the intention of our project is really simple. We want to, fully enjoy the home that we have. We've got a large lot. that we don't really get a lot out of. It's got a great sort of natural slope to it, and our intention is to really, use that better. There's a deck there today that's in a little bit of a state of disrepair. It's not easy to access. You have to sort of go all the way around to get to it, and so we don't really get the sort of indoor-outdoor living to the degree that that our community should that we'd love to be able to take advantage of. And so we're really excited to hear, Lorraine, you described that the project is consistent with things in the neighborhood. That was certainly our intent when we thought about it. You talked through all of the design elements. I'm not even really sure what more to add. I guess the only other thing that I'd say is, we understand some of the concerns from folks in the in the neighborhood, and intend to be continue to do everything that we can to be really respectful of that. We've got 4 parking spots on our street. We understand that there is concern about parking back behind the house. At the spot where the project is done, it's actually pretty wide. I went and measured it myself tonight just to make sure I wasn't crazy. It's about 31 feet wide, including the parking spot. So I would expect that a lot of the work, I'm not the expert here, but could be done with minimal disruption. We'll have them actually park in our driveway as much as possible, so that the impact to the neighbors during what's hopefully a relatively short project is minimized. I'm not sure if there's anything else that I should provide an overview. Again, we're really excited to be able to do this. I think it will really enhance our use of the house. I think it'll be really quite consistent with the indoor-outdoor living space that a lot of neighbors have, with sport courts and pools and a lot of great decks. It's one of the great things about the part of Larkspur that we're in. So I'll pause there, and if there are any questions for us, we're happy to answer.
Does anybody have any questions for Eric? Seeing none, I guess I appreciate your presentation and the brevity too. Is there anybody else that would like to speak to this particular item? I see, is there a hand up with Aaron Langs? Is that?
Okay, Aaron, you're
Hi,
allowed.
I'm unmuted.
No?
No, I unmuted.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, okay, hi. So I'd like to first say that I am someone who emailed a question, and you stated that I was opposed to the project, which I'd like to categorically say that's not what my email was. My email was actually asking questions. I thought I was asking the city office, but I think I ended up asking the planner for this project. So what I would like to state and inquire about is I am friendly with the owners of this property who want to do this project. I've already talked to them. I reviewed all the plans. I am not opposed to a pool. What my concern is the fact that we're limiting all this watering for all of us on the hill, which we have adhered to, and yet we're talking about approving putting a new swimming pool in. And I'm not opposed to swimming pools. I'm just a little bit flummoxed by the mixed messages of I'm not allowed to water and keep things maintained to a way that we would want to, but someone else is going to put in a new swimming pool. So I question that. As much as I love swimming pools, and I know I've got about 5 in my neighborhood. That's great. That's awesome. My neighbor across the street has one. Great. We've been in this house for 21 years. I have no opposition to a swimming pool, but I question the inconsistencies with the limitations of maintaining vegetation in a fire season and a drought, but we're going to put in a swimming pool. So that's my first point. My second point is, and Eric and Ali know this, that I'm extremely concerned being on Marina Vista, and it's a narrow street. It worries me for myself and my family. If there's a fire that comes down the hill, the only way out is our street. I don't have any other way to get out of here. And so a project like this, with any construction whether it's diggers, a gunite truck, trucks on our street. And we have very limited parking to put cars. Two cars really can't pass each other on our street unless they're using a parking space to pull into or into a driveway. People constantly pull onto our driveway and into our carport so that a car can pass. And that's with no swimming pool or any construction happening on our street. So I am concerned about fire danger of while this project's happening, if some, catastrophe happens, of us being able to get out of this neighborhood. And so I know that Eric and Ally are very open to talking about what's on our street on Marina Vista and how we can, mitigate any concerns about that. So my email to Lorraine, which I was confused that I was sending it to someone in the city, was asking questions about those two issues. So I want to clarify that. I am not a neighbor who is saying I'm opposed to this, and I don't want them to think that because we're very friendly with them. But I do have concerns about inconsistency in what you're requiring with water and what you are allowing to happen in a place where this is the only road we can get out of our neighborhood if there's a fire. And if there's an emergency, no emergency vehicles can get up here if we have trucks parked on the street. Thanks.
Sorry, I was muted. Thank you, Aaron. Does anybody have any questions for Aaron? Are there any other people in the audience who would like to speak to this particular item?
I don't see any hand raising.
In that case, I will bring it back to the Planning Commission, and I would like to start with Jeffrey Swisher and your thoughts.
Oh, Jeffrey has recused himself, I believe.
Oh, that's right.
I live right next door, so as much as I love
How
talking.
about Natasha?
Okay, yeah, thanks, Brock. So I don't know if we should just maybe take a minute to discuss some of the concerns that were raised before maybe we jump into our thoughts on the design and slope permits. But and please jump in. I do ask my fellow commissioners to jump in here, but I believe though regarding Aaron Lang's comments, there is a construction management plan that's in the conditions of approval. So I would hope that that would cover what the conditions are and just address all the issues that were raised by her, like what would happen in an emergency and how everything would be managed. In the other letter provided by, I think it was Miss Salzberg, I think the unstable fill was already addressed, but her concerns about the geotechnical report, about the I think the engineering. I think I saw an engineering report from the applicant, and also there's the city engineer has reviewed this as well. So hopefully that will cover everything and address any concerns there. I think though on the question about the drought, it is an interesting one, that we are not allowing gardens to be watered, but we are allowing a swimming pool to be built. But it is a kind of a one-time thing. I do understand that once the pool is filled, there aren't really any sort of significant sources of water consumption at that point. Once the water's in there, and if anything, in the case of a fire, I've sort of heard that having a body of water is actually beneficial and will protect the area. So maybe it's not as bad as it sounds. And I also wonder about timing, like how long it actually would take for the pool to be built, and maybe we could kind of maybe discuss that as well. But generally but just moving my comments onto the design, had no objections to the design itself. I think the slope use permit is somewhat limited, so I'm fine with that. And given the placement and really the limited impact to anyone, I was okay with making the findings with respect to the design review and the slope use permit.
Thank you, Natasha. Daniel?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Natasha, for your comments also. Yeah, with regard to the design, I have no problem with it either. And I have no problem with the slope use permit requests also. I think that they are compliant with the guidelines for making those findings. With regard to the water, I did have a discussion with the planning director about that, and I tend to be rather parliamentarian about this kind of thing. We really don't have the authority to regulate other people's, as a planning commission, to regulate things like water consumption. There are other authorities, including the city council and including obviously the Marin municipal water district, that actually set those rules. And I think it would be exceeding our authority if we attempted to make our own rules in the absence of a finding from any of these other authorities, from either the city ordinances, the general plan, or any other agency that has jurisdiction over this, might have jurisdiction over this project or any other project in this area. So, while I definitely hear loud and clear the objections to the water use, which would stem from filling a pool, I'm just very loath to bow to the temptation of overstepping my authority. So I'm not going to do that. I should, just for full disclosure, we have a pool ourselves, but I did bubble wrap it for the duration of the drought in order to not add to the water usage. So so I can make the findings for approval.
Thank you, Daniel. I believe I can also make the findings for approval. I think the question about water is a significant one. Intuitively, it doesn't feel quite right to, I don't know how many gallons it takes to fill a pool that size, but when you have people not watering their lawns to conserve water. But again, it's not our purview to base the design review on the water use. And I also think that the plan for the off-haul, that's actually a pretty wide section of that road. So if there has to be trucks parked there, I think they need to be respectful and do it in a way that doesn't block the road. But I think it can be done. So in any case, I think I can make also make the findings.
Yeah. Brock, just to clarify, and Kristen will correct me if I'm wrong. In the conditions of approval, there is a requirement to have a project management plan in place, and such plan would definitely forbid any kind of blockage that would prevent entry and egress of emergency equipment. Is that correct, Kristen?
That should definitely be what is required.
Okay.
We would not want to block this narrow road.
Okay, so that is
part of their. If they are going to have any road closures, it has to be managed through Public Works, advertised in advance, etc.
Okay, I just want to make that clear for the record. Thanks.
And presumably off-haul, when you have big trucks there, will be managed. It's just what they're going to have to do. So
it's likely with that road design, they'll use the smaller size dump trucks for it too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could I have a motion from one of my two colleagues?
Okay, Natasha, you went last time, so I guess I'll do this.
Oh, okay, I was ready to go again, but okay.
Okay, I move to approve a design review and slope use permit number 21-04 for 66 Ardmore Road.
They're making a motion, Neil.
Sorry, should I repeat that?
Oh, no. Just letting him know so he's ready for you in the next item.
Natasha, can I have a second?
Yes, sorry, you can have a second from me.
All those in favor, do we need to take a roll call? There are three of us here.
Yes, I'll call out the names. Commissioner Chalmers,
Yes,
Commissioner Kunstler,
Yes.
and Chair Wagstaff.
Yes.
So for the record, that's 3 yeses and 1 abstention by Commissioner Swisher.
Actually, recusal.
Recusal, sorry.
Usually, just from a math standpoint, a pool that size is about 18,500 gallons. Just it's 546 square feet, average depth of about 4.5 feet. If you take from end to end, that's 2,500 cubic feet and about 7.5 feet gallons per foot. So I have a pool too, and they really, once you have established them, they don't really use a lot of water, and especially if you have covering or things like that. So it is a concern, but we're not always going to be in a drought. Let's hope.
The nice thing about rectangular pools is they're easy to cover.
Yeah.
So does anybody have any, let's see, we're gonna go over business items, including limiting time limits for speakers and video access for speakers. And Neil, are you gonna present something along those lines, or?
Well, I'm going to let me do a quick switch on my view options here.
Do you want me to make you a presenter? You want to share your screen?
No, I mean, there isn't really much to share. I think we can just go to why don't we go to a group screen?
Not sure what you mean by that.
Like gallery, there we go. Why don't you just keep it on the agenda here on this item?
Yeah.
So yeah, the first item, I just wanted to revisit with the Planning Commission, our operating procedures. There's been some discussion about trying to create some guardrails, some rails on speaker times, try to encourage speakers to be more concise and to the point, and certainly the operating procedures kind of encourage the chair to, get to the, encourage people to get to the point, and also to certainly when there's a lot of speakers, there are methods to try to, expedite the discussion, encourage people, if they have comments that are basically the same as what someone said before, it's just to indicate that they, support those comments, not to really repeat things that people have said before continuously. So there are certain techniques to trying to encourage the discussion to go along. But as I've noted, the city council does actually specify in their agenda, they limit presentations to 10 minutes and speakers to 3 minutes. And on our operating procedures, when we generally try to encourage presentations for short items to be quicker than 10 minutes. Certainly at staff, we encourage people to be brief as possible and focus on the important points of the project. When projects are a little more complex and they're giving PowerPoint presentations and audio visuals, often that of course takes a little more time to sort of run through, and there is some exception to that. And I do think we should recognize if there's for a presentation, if there's a project very complex and has a lot of components to it. Typically, the chair and the director can sort of affirm, the director through the chair can affirm that, this is a more complicated project and might take, 10, 15 minutes to walk through. But again, we try to make sure that the plans and materials are both thorough and to the point, explanatory. So, hopefully materials submitted should reduce that. So on that topic, we certainly, again, we'll try to keep speakers' presentations to 10 minutes, particularly if they are including some audio visuals or visual presentations. And then I think it's the election of the commission, if they'd like to include that on the agenda, to really keep speakers to 3 minutes. I would recognize 3 minutes is a pretty tight window. I mean, this is public hearing. So if somebody really does have concerns about a project, that can be a little tight, but at least it's a starting point to begin to say, can you kind of wrap it up soon? How many more issues do you have? So before we, go to the point of having a blinking light or something like that and cut people off. So that's the first topic. And if I would just encourage the commission to discuss if they'd like us to go ahead and, include that on the agenda as a kind of a guardrail for speakers. I think as opposed to the city council, the planning commission generally doesn't have as many long-winded topics or controversial topics typically, but some agendas are fuller than others. So it's maybe that's something that would be good to have on there as they do with the city council. And then the other topic, probably better, we'll visit that after, but I know it's been raised kind of being on these Zoom meetings. Some desire to go ahead and see the speakers as well, the presenters and the speakers as well as the presenters. And haven't done that in practice simply because of the logistics to some degree and the challenges of having people up and on screen. So that's something we can talk about when we get there. But first item would be how do we formalize a time limit for speakers? And if we do that, is the chair willing to sort of keep time on that? Or do we want to get some kind of stopwatch system in place?
Well, Neil, you noted it in what you submitted to us earlier today that the city council, they're supposed to take a vote if they're going to make an exception to the 3-minute rule, where I would personally be more in favor of leaving that discretion up to the chair to be the enforcer. So we could maybe set those same guidelines, especially the same guidelines the city council uses, and just have the chair have discretion as to whether it's necessary to enforce them or not.
Yeah, I'd like to point out that Lincoln's Gettysburg Address was 275 words long and lasted 2 minutes. And if Lincoln can do it, we can do it. Okay. So I think that
well, Jeff, not everybody's Lincoln,
I know. We can all
maybe Jeffrey is.
But one of the things that this happens a lot at the hospital, because you can imagine that speeches during committee meetings get really long-winded, and we've been very effective in our med exec committees limiting presentations, and really it makes everybody happier and things get done better. So I think that it's up to the chair, but I would go for either a 3-minute seems reasonable to me, and then for longer projects, maybe to echo the city council. So I just spoke longer than Lincoln did, so I think I will stop.
Neil, I actually think that if there was a way Generally, I think people do very well. It's not an issue. It was a couple meetings ago where it rambled on and on and on and on. And it's hard to know where to cut people off. But if there was something that said, we generally encourage the presenter to make his presentation within 10 minutes, and responding people have 3 to 5 minutes or whatever. I'm not going to look at a stopwatch and pipe in. But if somebody's rambling on for 20 minutes, it would be nice to call them on it. And I should have done that whenever that meeting was, but I didn't. I kept thinking he was going to finish. But anyway,
Brock, I pretty much agree with you. But what I would say would be if there was sort of a guideline that did have some teeth, so the chair was able to invoke it without anybody objecting. I think that could be useful.
Exactly. And that's why it would be nice in the box at the top of the agenda if it just said,
Yes, yeah.
And then you've got something like you said with teeth, where you can say, we encourage you to wrap it up.
Well, I think that's essentially what is on the council agenda. Public hearings, applicants and appellants shall make their presentations. And appellants are, in some cases, you might hear an appeal of a matter from a decision made by either myself or the zoning administrator referred to you. There could be situations where you kind of have an appeal, in which case you kind of have an applicant and an appellant who can make presentations. But in either case, if it comes to that, the applicants and or appellants shall make their presentations within 10 minutes. Now it says it will be allowed a 3-minute summation period. I don't think we need that. I think that could be, again, depending on the complexity, they should be able to wrap it up within 10 minutes most of the time. And depending on the complexity of the matter, again, the chair can exercise some discretion.
I think we want to sorry to interrupt, Neil, but I think we want to distinguish between the 10 minutes and the 3 minutes, because I would hate now everyone thinking, anyone who's commenting now thinks they have 10 minutes to speak.
Right. It says applicants or an appellant shall make their presentations within 10 minutes. Public participation shall be limited to 3 minutes per speaker per topic.
Okay.
And then it says these time limits may be waived by the majority vote of the council. And I think we just say these time limits may be waived at the discretion of the commission chair.
Yeah, I think that's fine. That would be helpful. Do we need to vote on that, or can we just do it?
No, I mean, I guess if I can sort of get a consensus, if everyone agrees with that, we can add that to the agendas. We do have some attendees in the audience. So if the chair wants to invite any public comment on that, we have Kevin Carroll is raising his hand.
Yeah, I would like to hear from anybody in the audience that would like to address that.
Thank you. Because of the nature of my business, I own a cab company. I attend a lot of different city council meetings and the board of supervisors meetings. And it's interesting, I found it interesting to see how each city council and the supervisors, it's really on the personalities of the council members and the supervisors, how the meetings are run. But I'm just curious, has anyone watched the other planning commissions in the other cities to see how they handle this matter, and might that not help inform a decision on this? Thank you.
Thank you. I think that's a good idea. Is there anybody else in the audience that would like to speak? Any other hands? Would any of the other commissioners like to add anything to what's been said? And I think if we can put that in the box at the top, whatever the wording is, and we can look at that, or Neil can email us with what he's gonna put there.
Well, I'll run it by, like I said, it's largely going to be what's on the council agenda, limiting presentations to 10 minutes, public participation to 3 minutes per speaker, with the caveat that the time limits may be waived by the commission chair. And I think, again, in practice, you may want to, just sort of keep an eye on how long someone's talking, and then you'll probably have a pretty good idea when they've gone over 3 minutes or gone over 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So we could kind of see how effective it is in helping. Again, I don't think it's critical to necessarily have a stopwatch running, but
No,
be a quick reminder.
Neil, will you or other members of the building department develop a text for these operating procedures that you'll then present to us, and we'll have a motion to pass it? Is that what you have in mind?
Yeah, I could bring that back. Let me look if the council has that built in or not, and I'll bring it back. I just want to make sure we're all in agreement before writing it up.
Yeah, if we could bring that back as a business item next time.
Then we'll vote on it.
Okay.
Anybody else want to say anything about that, or are we good? Can I have a motion to approve the minutes of July 27th?
Before you move on, I wanted to also get the commission's preference. It sounds as though the commission would like to allow speakers to, and correct me if I'm wrong, Kristen, are you still online? I'm not sure if she's here.
I'm here.
Oh, okay. Currently, we don't typically put the speakers onto video, or are we doing that now?
Yes.
I did tonight for the first time after we talked about it. I just thought I'd try it. It was okay, except I did kind of lose somebody at first.
I thought it worked quite well, actually. I thought
Right.
you just transferred it to a panelist and then we could see them. So
I did also. I would much prefer to see people. I think you can learn a lot more when you're looking at somebody than just hearing a voice.
right.
Well, and I think it provides a little fairness, particularly when we're having presentations that are done with any kind of PowerPoint or visual presentation by the applicant. I think we found, well, we kind of have to do that, so it's a little hard to keep others out. But the challenge is you really don't want to have multiple parties on screen, because you have to you really don't want to have, it's kind of like coming to the podium. That's your chance to talk. And then when you're done speaking, we have to take you off of the video, take your sound off, to make sure that you're not interrupting or creating any visual conflict with, others, who are now then speaking after you. So it's a bit of a hat trick in operating. And I think we had some challenges with that early on as we were learning the system to manage it. But I think we can do that. And just keep in mind, we're going to be trying to, it may add a little step sometimes, just getting people's camera on, etc. But we can go ahead and do that. And,
Kristen, how was it for you tonight? Was it straightforward?
Yeah, I think it was, once I got through the first guy, it was easy. It does take a little more time, and I have to make sure I remove their permissions to speak, or they could be chiming in the background. So as long as these agendas continue being relatively light like this, I don't have any problem. If we end up some very heavy items, we may have to ask the city clerk to step in and assist.
well, it's not just heavy items, it's just any one item that can be controversial if you get a number of people in. And then who's ever in charge is kind of juggling, and we do have the city clerk can assist,
Yeah.
if needed as well. So, I think we can begin to practice that, and we'll prepare for it.
Great.
Okay,
Okay, approval of the minutes, a motion from somebody.
Yeah, I'll move to approve the minutes of July 27th, 2021.
I can second.
Do we have to do a roll call for this?
why don't you
Commissioner
do, yeah, go ahead.
Kunstler- Commissioner Kunstler,
Aye.
Commissioner Chalmers,
Yes.
Commissioner Swisher,
Aye.
Chair Wagstaff.
Yes.
That's 4 with 1 absentee by Laura Faber.
It's
And are
probably,
there-
probably better we just get in the habit of doing the roll call. so-
I think you're right. I
Yeah.
think you're right. Do we have any planning commissioners reports? Seeing none, would somebody like to move to adjourn?
I will make the motion to adjourn.
I can second.
All in favor?
There we go.
Aye.
Aye.
Are we waiting for our names again, or can we just? say
Shall
that?
I call him? Commissioner
Oh,
Kunstler,
just get in the habit of it, I guess.
Okay.
Commissioner Kunstler,
Aye.
Commissioner Chalmers,
Yes, I.
Commissioner Swisher,
Aye, aye.
and Chair Wagstaff.
Yes.
Okay, that's all aye for 2-1 with 1 absent.
Yes.
I think what we may accomplish by limiting the speakers, we've just delayed in terms of
Yeah.
videos and roll calls. So anyway, have a good night.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Talk to you
you.
soon. Take
Yep.
care.